Afternoons with Elise Elliott on 3AW 693.
Love having you on Afternoons. 133 693 is the number to call. Now, interesting thing about grief, I think, is regret. And if you regret not saying something to someone after they've passed away, it can just be one of the worst things. Grief is hard enough as it is. Joining me is James McLeod, Managing Director of Tobin Brothers Funeral Service. Hi there, James.
Elise, great to be with you.
Thanks for joining me in the studio. I'd love to hear from callers. Did you have the opportunity to say what you've always wanted to say to someone before they passed? Or did you not? And if you didn't, what advice would you give to someone who has a loved one who's perhaps unwell or elderly? James, what do you think is one of the saddest things, I guess, in a way, that you see when someone has passed away?
Well, this whole program of hashtag Say It Now, it came to me from sitting through so many eulogies over 35 years. And about a decade ago, I thought, gee, people get up there and they say, I wish I had said this to them while they were alive. And I thought, well, we've got a role to play here to reach out to the community and give them permission and to say it's really important to reach out to those in your life today and say it to them now, not when it's too late. And
I imagine the two top things people wish they had said is, I love you, no doubt.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, maybe?
Yep, I think all of those things. I look at myself, my parents were of that generation where they didn't often say that to me, that they loved me. I knew I was very much loved. But I think we're by talking about it and having many of our ambassadors involved in Say It Now, give people permission and they feel more at ease to do it. And I think that experience is one thing. My mum died of cancer. I had plenty of opportunity to say all the things that I wanted to and needed to say to my mum. And my dad died very suddenly and I didn't have that opportunity. And I know the difference. And I know I feel a whole lot better about my mum's death and having that opportunity. So we just don't want people to, like you said, to feel that remorse or that regret that they didn't do it.
And do you, out of interest, feel the weight heavier of your dad's passing because you didn't get to say goodbye, you didn't get to say I love you, you didn't get to say I'm sorry or I forgive you or any of those things?
I think I could have done it better, is what I'm saying. I could have done it, and I know the difference. I know the way that they feel. And, there's plenty of things that I would have said to my father had I had more time, but sometimes we just don't have the time. So that's why it's important to take advantage of the moment now.
Love to hear from you, 133 693. Things you said to loved ones before they died or things you wish you said. Susan, go ahead.
Hello, it's good to talk to you. But when my father was passing away, he had heart failure and we were all in the room with him and we were telling him how much we loved him. But the others went out and I just stayed behind and I said to him, you've got our permission to go. And when we came back in about 10 minutes later, he'd passed over. So it was like he was waiting for our permission to let go.
And then, Susan, you gave, and I mean, it must be a heart-aching thing, but you must feel a little bit comforted that you stayed behind and could give him permission.
Yes, and to tell him how much he'd meant to me and how much we loved him. But it was just really a funny feeling to come back in and he'd gone. And it took me a while to realise what had happened.
Thank you for your call, Susan. Beverly joins us. Hi there, Beverly.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
I wrote a letter to my mother in 2005, 4 pages it was, of what she meant to me and what she'd done for me. She passed in 2015 and I have never had one regret.
Oh, so you gave this letter to her in 2005, well and truly a decade before she died.
I just wrote it one day. I wanted to show her how much she meant. Yeah. And she kept it. And I said, please don't read it till I've left the room.
That's really touching, Beverly. And obviously it was a very heartwarming, lovely letter. Yeah.
I mean, I'd been in hospital with cerebral hemorrhage and epilepsy, and my mother was really good. I don't know how it would have gone without her, but so I wrote everything I could think of from school to what she meant to me, and so I knew there was nothing. And I wasn't sad when she left because I knew she knew what I thought.
Oh, Beverly, thank you for your call. So James McLeod, Managing Director of Tobin Brothers Funeral Service, is joining us. So what do you think about the letter? The letter's kind of good because words can get lost, misconstrued. letter's pretty powerful.
Very powerful. I think letters are fantastic. I think a handwritten note. How many of us have we got a handwritten note that someone near and dear has written to us over the years to keep and to go back to and to reread? It's far more powerful than a text message. And far more meaningful too. And so I think that's a wonderful idea and a wonderful thing that Beverly did with her mother.
And you mentioned that eulogies, often people try and say this after the fact, but it just doesn't resonate, obviously, the same way.
Well, the person it's all about, they don't get to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think that the important thing is that when you tell someone how you feel about them, they feel fantastic as a result of it.
They do.
And then you feel pretty good too. So you make two people's days. And I think that that's something about that. And that's why we just encourage everyone to say it now.
What about if you've had a bit of a feud with someone, or there's a bit of, just a bit of angst there? How do you overcome that? Like, and say, let's get over this. I'm sorry. I was an idiot. Forgive me. I mean, what's your advice to people who are still driven by that sort of anger?
Well, a few years ago during Say It Now month, I had a lady reach out to me who hadn't spoken to her sister for 20 years. She'd keep hearing Dennis sing the Say It Now song and what have you. She felt it was talking to her. She reached out, wrote a letter to her sister. They had a cup of coffee, and she writes me a Christmas card each year. And they meet for dinner every Sunday night as a result of it. So, it takes a big person to do that, and sometimes we've got to be the bigger person. And so I just encourage people, don't wait until it's too late, because living with regret, remorse, and guilt, it's no good for anyone.
No.
And so do it in the moment, do it now. And if you're thinking about it, I encourage you to really reach out and do it today.
Narelle, good afternoon. Hi there.
Hello. Look, I come from fabulously two parents have since passed, but both of them absolutely lived for the moment and with the whole attitude of no regrets, live life to the fullest. And we just lost my dad 2 years ago. And it was interesting because he comes from that generation where, you don't show your feelings or anything. And I was a bit upset one night, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, well, I lost Mum 20 years ago. And I said, "But whilst you're alive, she's always here." But I said, "You're going to go soon," because he has cancer. He had cancer. And I said, I really, feel I'm upset. And he kept looking at me, staring funny. I said, but the interesting thing is, because Mum went 20 years ago, that gave my dad and I 20 years to get to know each other. And I said, for that, I'm eternally grateful. And so the funny thing was, at his funeral, his best mate got up there and started to say, "And now I'm finally going to get the last word in." But what nobody realised was, at the very end of the PowerPoint presentation, Dad had recorded a little message, and at the end of it said, "Hooroo," and everybody just burst out laughing in this church.
Ah, that's a nice little touch, isn't it? A sort of posthumous video.
It was magnificent, and people still talk about it. They say that was him. He just absolutely lived life to the fullest, no regrets, so happy, and he was off to a better place.
Thank you, Narelle, for that very touching story. And Helen joins us. Good afternoon, Helen.
Hi there. When my dad passed away, we knew it was coming. He had cancer, but I made a point of taking him aside well in advance and saying, "I will always, always take care of Mum," because that's what mattered to him the most.
Isn't that lovely? So it's putting someone at ease, putting them at
60+
ease.
years, we've got no other family, and so I think people should think of that too.
Yeah, that's a really lovely point. Sort of put someone like that at ease, so they're not worried about it. Thank you, Helen, for your call. So James McLeod joining us, Managing Director of Tobin Brothers Funeral Service. So as we said, you don't sit in a rocking chair at the end of your life, do you, James, and regret what you did say in these situations. So you just need to say it.
Absolutely, and I just encourage everyone to do it. For some, it doesn't come easily. It might be difficult. But I think you'll feel, as I said earlier, a lot better about doing it, and the person that receives it will be too, because saying it now, in the moment, is the best thing for us to do. And when a person dies, you can feel at ease that you've done that in their lifetime.
There you go, everyone. Pick up the phone. If you're lucky enough to have your mum and dad still alive, tell them you love them. More coming up.